Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
My name is Pranay Tile. I am a chemical and biomolecular engineer from Johns Hopkins and currently in my second year at IIM Ahmedabad. Apart from these, for the last 7 years, I've been running a non-profit in the field of education based out of Delhi, where we help other NGOs, particularly focused in education, in managing long-term sustainability through financial support. So while I was in grade 12, I was at the United World College in Southeast Asia. The boarding school is based on the philosophy where they keep encouraging students to give back to society. So as part of one of the programs, I was volunteering at an orphanage in Nepal called Child Workers in Nepal, CIVN, where I was teaching English and maths to the children over there. While I was at the orphanage, I was interacting with the administrative people as well, and it emerged that the NGO was in a crisis right now because they were taking on a lot more children than was financially feasible for them at the time. So that's when I first realized that a lot of NGOs actually think about the shorter term rather than a longer term objective. So after that, I had conversations with a lot of other people who run NGOs, a lot of people specifically in the education sector. And I realized that this long-term financial management is one aspect that a lot of NGOs struggle with. The more I realized how we can look at it in terms of an additional NGO, the more it became clear that what the world needed at that time wasn't an additional NGO that built a school or something, but rather an NGO that helped in fundraising, and second, helped partner NGOs plan for their longer term financial expenditure. So when we started the NGO, me and my brother, in July 2012, our main motivation was helping other NGOs doing good work in the field of education with fundraising as well as fund management. And so that was the problem from the NGO side that we had identified. In terms of the donors, what we found was that a lot of people were giving money like as one-off donations to NGOs that they knew of, but nobody was really taking a collaborative approach where they were pooling money and giving an amount that could actually have a significant impact. So we decided that it was solving a problem on both the NGO side as well as the donor side, and that's why we went ahead, started the NGO. And so far we have a few partner organizations, mostly in North India as well as one in Sierra Leone, Africa. And we give out a few individual scholarships as well on a case-by-case basis, and I think it's going well so far. We have managed to create an impact and we are continually improving and growing as well. Initially, when you start off, obviously fundraising is a big challenge, because if you have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old coming to you and say that, we're going to make a larger impact than you are yourself with your donations, why don't you consider giving the money to us? It's obviously a challenge that a lot of people would be skeptic of giving it to you. So the way we went about it was we were fully transparent from the beginning. So all our donors are fully aware of where their money is going. We're constant in the communication that we have, so we are able to tell the donors exactly how many kids that money has helped, exactly how many schools that money has supported, and that I think has helped us over the years in terms of fundraising and building trust with our partners. Second, in terms of choosing the partners that you have in terms of NGOs, initially there is a lot of trial and error, there is a lot of exploration in terms of what the impact is, and then over time you know exactly what to look for when looking at a partner NGO, looking whether to give money to a certain organization, and then you also tend to develop trust with the opposing NGO that you have. And I think we've been able to establish that over 7 years now. We're fairly comfortable with the partners we have and we trust them fairly well. So I'd say I was in a fortunate place where we did have resources that we could leverage to set up the NGO. But that being said, there were still multiple windows we had to go to. So one is obviously getting the NGO registered. Second is getting it registered under the income tax law so that donors can get a tax benefit. So there was no one-stop window at the time where you could go and get every formality completed. I'm not sure if now that's the case or not, but at that time I know we had to fill out a lot of different paperwork. But it was a fairly expedient process. I don't think there were a lot of complications that we had. It's just time consuming, but given that we did have a lot of help in terms of resources and people, I think we were able to do it fairly quickly and efficiently. Growing up in India, you obviously are aware of the economic diversity that's around you all the time, but I think through the NGO it's made me more cognizant of the economic disparity in India. Now every decision that I take, there is an opportunity cost that's in my mind as well. So if you think about, say, spending a certain amount of money, you think about alternate uses for that money as well, right? So one of the alternate uses I think about is also in terms of the other partner NGOs we could support and the impact that it could have. I don't think it's it's affected my expenditure as such in terms of making me frugal or anything, but it just gives you an added thought perspective where you decide whether you need something or do you actually want it. So it just helps you think about that. I do think it is. So education in the non-profit example actually is exposure, right? Because it's not something you can actually study. It's more something you can actually see with your own eyes. You can actually understand by talking to people. And I think the two of us had been educated in that sense. We knew exactly what the problem was, what we were trying to solve, and how we were trying to solve it. Coming to a different setting where if it's a corporate environment where you're looking to develop an idea into a business, then again, like I said, it's a personal choice. So there are two methods. One is you get the required education that makes you comfortable with taking that leap of faith and trusting yourself to make it into a business. But second, if you have the idea, you're pretty much confident that you want to go ahead with it. In today's world, you can get the right set of people around you to make it a reality. You personally might not need to have the right education. Again, it's something that's been a changing trend for the past few decades, and I'm curious to see where it goes in the next few. Okay, I think it's critical to evaluate your own personal position that you're in. So everybody will have a different set of priorities, right? For some people, it might not be feasible to take that capital commitment right up front. They might want to earn a nest egg before they can take that. For some people, they might be willing to take that leap of faith. They might have less financial responsibility, so they have the bandwidth to take it. So I'd say make sure you take your time to actually look at where you are in life and what your commitments are. And if you feel fairly comfortable about taking up the challenge of starting a business, go for it. If you feel that having an education, having some experience in the corporate world will give you an additional edge, then take a decision based on that. One thing though I would add is I'd recommend to anybody who's starting a new venture that make sure you surround yourself with the right mentors and right advisors, because these can be invaluable for the longer term. These are people who you've chosen because you trust a certain skill set in them, and they will prove to give you the right guidance later on. So as I mentioned, the Tile Family Foundation focuses on raising funds which it develops into a corpus, and then we use this corpus, the return on this corpus specifically, to give out both financial support to partner NGOs as well as individual scholarships, which are very limited part of what we do. Majority of the work that we do is supporting other NGOs in the field of education. For example, one of the NGOs we support is called Pardada Pardadi. It's based in Bulandshahr, and their model is they take out all the underage girls that have been trafficked by their families. They convince them to come to school. In return, they pay them that daily wage that they would have earned if they had successfully been trafficked by their family, so that both their family doesn't suffer in terms of livelihood and the girl doesn't have to undergo that torture but rather gets an education. Third, what they found is giving a bicycle to girls is actually a very empowering factor. It helps them come from the village to the school, which is on the outskirts of the village, and that gives them a certain amount of independence so that the family can't say, no, you can't go to school. So just overcoming small barriers like that is something that we continuously learn in our life, and I think Pardada Pardadi Foundation has taught us that there are small things that you can do to overcome a major issue. Okay, so for the Tile Family Foundation, I think we have come a long way in the past 7 years. Our model is essentially setting up a corpus and then using the returns on that corpus to make donations. That's how we become financially viable over the longer term. So our goal is to grow the corpus to a level where we can have more partner NGOs that we commit to supporting. Right now, as I said, most of our work is in North India. We want to expand in the next decade so that we cover a large part of India. And while we do have a partner organization right now in Sierra Leone, I'd say that international expansion is something we probably will not be looking at for the next 2 decades, but it will be something that's always in the back of our mind. If we are able to get a sizable corpus, then that is something we'll go towards.